welcome back to my channel. So for today, I wanted to talk a little about Rise of Skywalker, but not what you might think with Rise of Skywalker. I don't want to talk about the sloppy plotting, the addition of a bunch of unnecessary characters, the kiss that wasn't satisfying even to someone who really was fangirling over the Reylo stuff. Instead, I'm going to give you my version of a script doctor. I've got my notes here. Basically, I've got like 5 pages of this lovely paper here. So, I mean, it's not super big paper, but I've got like 5 pages of how I would have rewritten the story. I think they had some good bones, but I do not like the direction that they went with a lot of the decisions that they made. So, I thought I'd read to you the changes that I would make for Rise of Skywalker to make it a better story that ultimately fit better with the trilogy than it currently does. Well, and the rest of Star Wars than it currently does. I know in some ways people probably felt the nostalgia worked, but I didn't like it. So, let's begin. We can still open with the scene of Kylo fighting the dudes in the forest. I thought that was a great opening. It was really intriguing, really gets your interest going. Instead, we change the motivation of it a little bit, though. We change it into a case of him like hunting for a MacGuffin of some sort, hunting for a rebel spy, hunting just around, And so I think I like the spy aspect of it still. He can be going to find even a First Order spy and collect information from them and meet some resistance along the way, thus the fighting. So we have that. He gets what he needs from that scene. And then we open on Rey. She has her training session with Leia that we see, but in the middle of that training session in the film, they had her do this weird little trip thing, and so I'm thinking that that is caused by her connecting with Kylo. So this introduces the fact that they're still force connecting, that it kind of throws her off balance. She doesn't know where she stands with him. She wishes that their relationship were different, that he'd not made the choices he did in Last Jedi, basically. From that, we move on to Poe running up, being like, I'm sick and tired of this. We can't just wait around forever. We need to do something. We're not building up the resistance just by hanging out here. Leia ultimately agrees, so she's concerned about sending them out, but we send out Poe and the gang. So Poe, Finn, even Rose can tag along, 3PO, Chewie, Rey, all of them, basically like we see in the film, other than that Rose got cut out of the film, basically. So Rose gets some parts now. But anyways, so they go off. They are looking for Desert Planet because they've heard that Lando retired there, and they think that Lando might be able to find some other turncoats and things that would be useful to have since, Lando kind of played both sides in the original trilogy. Maybe he'll help play both sides again because he's been part of, like, trade routes or something with the First Order that they think that maybe he'll be able to help them sabotage or something. So they're going to that Desert Planet. They're looking for Lando. And so they go start doing that. And then on that desert planet, we do get interrupted by Kylo, even the Knights of Ren if we want. They have their force connection that Kylo uses to find her there, all that. That was really cool. I liked that scene, so we can keep all that, finding her that way. But then when he catches up to them on the desert planet, Rey's like, you guys go. It's more important that you find people who can help us in the resistance. I will take care of Kylo. So we have her basically kidnapped by Kylo from that, and they get to go off and continue searching for other resistance members to help in their ultimate battle. Lando promises them that he'll gather up a gang of his people who can at least be a small band to help the resistance when they come to their final fight with the First Order. And then Rey faces off with Kylo. We see that scene where she's running in the desert. She can even do the same thing where she basically damages his TIE fighter. He gets out. He's bruised, but not too badly. He tries to convince Rey to join him again because he's still desperate to have her on his side. He still has feelings for her. She still is torn about her feelings for him. All of that. And then the Knights of Ren come along and they forcibly take Rey, basically, since she's being stubborn and doesn't want to join Kylo. He's like, fine, I've got my Knights of Ren. They'll help me capture you, and we're going to take you away from this planet. So Poe and the rest of them all escape, and based on some of the intel that they got from Lando, they can stop on Kojimi. And this can play out similarly to the movie where they're seeing all these stormtrooper raids. We're trying to hunt down Contact from Lando, and this Contact can turn out to be a mysterious figure in a helmet. And they're worried that she'll turn them into the First Order because she appears to recognize Poe. And desperate, Finn gives her the passcode that they got from Lando, and she takes off her helmet, smiles sadly at them. Well, Poe, it's been a while, kind of thing. So we see that those two do have history. And then we can cut to Rey being boarded onto Kylo's ship, and then we have Hux, who's standing there, and he's like, why did you bring this girl here? You should just have killed her. And, he's like, we're supposed to be killing the Resistance. We shouldn't be taking their warriors prisoner. Just kill them. And Kylo's like, well, her strength can be an asset to our cause. I'm Supreme Leader, and you're just trying to undermine me, so I'm not going to listen to what you say. We're not going to kill her. She's going to join us eventually. I promise you she will. I've seen it, kind of a thing. Hux gets really upset by this. He's like, she's just a distraction. What are you doing? Kylo then does the nice force chokehold and is like, I am the Supreme Leader. And then he flips Hux off to the side like he does when they're in the ship and the end of The Last Jedi, and he just pushes him to the wall. He does that again because that's a great dynamic for them, I feel like. So then they walk off. They're going to take Rey to her prison cell or whatever. And from there, we cut back to Poe and the gang. We're now in Zori's shop. She's a black market dealer. We can just not be vague about whatever they called it, spice trading or whatever, that implied drug dealing but was not drug dealing. She's just dealing with the black market. That's how Lando even knew about her. So it all connects, Anyways, Zori and Poe, they start arguing about the past and all these things, how she used to have him as an aide in her black market trade, and then he abandoned her for the Resistance, and how that's a really sore spot, but that he ultimately did it because he had a cause to fight for, to pilot for specifically. He was her pilot, so he's the best pilot in the galaxy as established by the trilogy, so that was what was going on there. And Zori hasn't really forgiven him for this, of course, but ultimately she agrees to put out a call among all her black market people because she knows that the Resistance is doing good, at least in getting rid of the First Order, who's terrorizing her planet. So she'll put out a call, see if anyone from the black market will be interested in joining the Resistance and helping in that last battle that they're looking to get into. So they leave Zori behind, and then they go off in search of another contact to continue drumming up people for the First Order. We cut back to Kylo's ship. We have the Knights of Ren with him on the desert planet after finishing up a reconnaissance mission, or whatever, We've sent them off to do other things, and they're like, hey, we found this Sith temple. And he says, cool, we're going to set a course there. Let's see what there is to see at this Sith temple. The Jedi had a temple, the Sith need a temple. Why not? Let's see if we can gain any important, valuable knowledge for our fight with this. And he looks over at Rey. Maybe this will be what convinces you that we're the right side to join, So, Hux, of course, disapproves of this change of course, but Kylo again dismisses his protest. We're still building up their conflict with each other, right? And then we cut back to Poe and the others. We're on another planet looking for another contact, and we find this army of defector stormtroopers. And Finn, of course, is shocked, like in the movie. I'm not the only one? What? They get to have that cool scene. And defector stormtroopers are like, yeah, we'll stand and join you. We'll fight against the First Order. We've been hiding too long. It's time that we take a stand against them instead of just hiding from them. And then we cut back to Kylo and his ship, and we've arrived on this desolate planet. The ground is dry and cracked, as if it's never held any life. The sky is streaked with perpetual lightning storm, basically Exegol, whatever they called that stupid planet that Palpatine lived on. That's where we are now. Yeah. Both Kylo and Rey hear a voice that seems to be calling them through this perpetual storm that's going on there, and they reach the Sith Temple. It's this large, jagged structure that seems to be hewn from the rocks around it. Rey is very apprehensive, but Kylo forces them to go inside because he's like, this is what's going to convince you that my side is the right side. And then, as they are entering, they're both struck by these powerful Force visions. Kylo's mind is filled with the voice of the Emperor, mocking him. I'm every voice you've ever heard inside of your head. All of that. And Rey seems to be alone. She's in a dark hallway. At the end is an enshrouded, robed figure standing facing her in the darkness. So there's no other direction to go. Rey walks down this hallway, and the figure seems to loom larger as Rey approaches until suddenly she realizes that it is herself. Rey gasps in shock as the hooded figure ignites a red lightsaber. Rey stumbles away gasping. Kylo and the Knights are still stuck in their strange visions, and Rey sees that they are stuck in that and only hesitates a moment before deciding that it's time to steal the TIE fighter and get out of there. So that's how she evades Kylo's clutches. And then the Resistance is gathering their forces, collecting them back together on that forest planet, all the people that have been recruited by Poe and the gang, although Lando and his promised fighters are noticeably absent at this point. Poe and the general talk strategy. What's the plan? Where do we want to set up for this final battle? Let's end it where it's ended before, Leia says with bravado. And a war was once won on Endor. It can be won there again. And then we at least have some establishment for why the Death Star is in this story. Because I do kind of like that as a set piece. It just didn't entirely work the way that they did it, I felt like. So there, now we have it established. Alright, so how do we get them to fight where we choose? And Leia says that we taunt them and bait them, of course. And then we cut back to Kylo, and he's pissed off. He's just returned to his ship without Rey. And Hux is there to greet him again, of course. And he'd had to, dispatch a ship to go collect them because, Rey stole their TIE fighter, and he's really pissed, and he's sneering at Kylo. This is why we should have killed her, but, you're the supreme leader, so I guess that's fine. And then he's like, but this is no time for regrets. We've received a transmission from the Resistance, and they wish to stage a final battle on Endor. And he laughs mockingly, as if their pitiful number could ever be a match for our strength. Because he's, of course, cocky, he gets that from Snoke. So, we need to find Rey, Kylo snarls, displeased. And then Hux is like, no, it's too late for that. You had your chance. You could have killed her. But our orders now are to gather our troops and destroy Endor. And then that's basically Hux staging a coup and saying, you're not Supreme Leader anymore, kind of a thing. Meanwhile, Rey fled to Ahch-To because she's terrified of this vision that she saw of herself. And she throws a bit of a pity party. We get the Luke Force Ghost showing up. Controlling fear is the destiny of the Jedi line comes up because that was a good line. I enjoyed that. And finally, she's further compounded by a Force Bond visit from Kylo, who's taunting her about the Resistance plans to be on Endor. And she's like, well, I guess I gotta fight. But she's also like, Ben, don't do this. Because I note here that she's called him Ben throughout the whole thing. She still believes that he can be turned. That's part of her, torment. So we see her calling him Ben the whole time, as if she doesn't believe Kylo exists anymore, or has to exist anymore, kind of a thing. But anyways, so she's like, Ben, don't do this. And she's sensing that some of his anger and bitterness is directly for her decisions and the First Order and the Resistance actually have a little to do with a lot of his feelings right now. That it's mostly just, why did you not choose me, kind of a feeling. So Luke then helps Rey to raise his X-Wing, and she dashes across the stars to help her friends. Our final battle commences. we have one planet side where Rey and Kylo sense each other and clash on the remains of the Death Star, because that was really cool. I did enjoy that. Sidebar again, Hux, of course, is really mad that Kylo is so distracted by Rey again. The ultimate goal of the First Order is not to convert one pathetic girl to our cause. You need to just kill her. Leia senses that Kylo is closer than he's been in a long time. This is potentially her last and best chance to call her son home, so she passes leadership on to Poe and goes to meditate and try to connect with her son. And she appears before Kylo, unaware of the battle that he's been in with Rey. Please, son, come home. And Rey, not knowing what's happening because she can't see the Leia Force Ghost thing, happens to wound Kylo while he's distracted. And then Rey panics. I never meant to do this. And she does her Force Life Heal thing to help Ben. I wanted to take your hand, Ben's hand. And we get that line, because that was a good line. That was like the one bit of character development in their Reylo that I was like, oh, this kind of works. Anyways, so we've got that. And then thinking that, this is maybe her chance to still try to swim to the light. She attempts to flee, but Kylo catches her arm. Why would you never just give up on me? And Rey smiles bitterly, because I know conflict too. Confronting those feelings and making decisions of who we want to be, that's something everyone must face. So thus we get like a thesis for the movie, right? Good stuff. Ben's grip slides from her arm into her hand. I know what I have to do, but I don't know that I can face it unless we do it together, which echoes lines from the other ones. In the first one, when he's about to kill Han, and he's like, I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. And then in the throne room in The Last Jedi, when he's like, I know what I have to do, and he kills Snoke. So it's like an echo of all of that. I really wanted that. And instead, in The Rise of Skywalker, they just made him repeat the same line to his dad, and I was like, no, this is stupid. So anyways, we get a better context for that line, a better, echo to that line. And then, let's see, so from there, I lost my spot on my page, sorry. There we go. So they go back to the Resistance base together. They gather up Poe and the squad after some, why is Kylo here? Where they're very uncomfortable about it. And she's like, no, call him Ben. He's made his decision. He's joined our side. I promise. It's all good. Ask Leia. She had a part in it. Kind of a thing. But they go back and they face down the First Order. They get onto Kylo's ship again to go face down Hux. We've got that scene where Poe and Chewie and I think Finn are running down that hallway shooting down stormtroopers, and then Kylo and Rey are going to find Hux and to face him down. We do all that. And then Hux and Ben face off with Rey guarding the door to give them privacy for their final showdown. I don't know that privacy is the right word, but that kind of idea. And they get off into their fighting and all of that. And then Rey is defending that door. Ben is fighting with Hux. Ben kills Hux and dissolves the First Order. And everyone gets to celebrate. The story ends with Kylo redeemed and having turned. He could even keep his red lightsaber because his red lightsaber is really cool. And then we've got a much better story. I mean, it's, I'm sure, not perfectly plotted out, but it's much more cohesive than the story that Rise of Skywalker gave us. So that's where I would have gone with the story. And yeah, let me know if you enjoyed my rewrite of The Rise of Skywalker. Let me know if you enjoyed Rise of Skywalker. And yeah, I think that's all for now. This is the Umlaut Herper signing out.